Other than that, let's talk about managed services.
Yeah, so during the last week, we got some feedback from the community for people that are giving our prototype a try. This is quite cool, actually, and the feedback was valuable. And also the good thing is that all the issues that they have discovered doesn't invalidate our proposal. Yeah, there are bits that are missing, bits that are not well shaped, but this is nothing major. So I was wondering where should we decide whether we accept or reject the proposal. Shall we give it another week or so? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't heard, like, it sounds like we haven't heard anything that's going to say it doesn't work. I don't know if we've got anyone on the call here who has other feelings on that, but
Yeah, I would be glad for feedback from Giuseppe as well, because you apparently have some services that you can play with.
Yeah, so as I told you, this week we are in Lisbon in a workshop. We tried to test it last Friday. We were able to install the branch, but we faced some issue with the contour configuration, and we were not able to complete the test. And this week we have no time to have a look into it. So next week.
Cool. I guess that we're not in a real hurry. Anyways.
Maybe we can give it one more week, although even if you have any issues, Giuseppe, I guess we can, unless they invalidate something major in the proposal, we'll anyway have to address them because the implementation is just a prototype. But let's give it another week. As Danny said, we're not in a real hurry, so that you give you guys some time to try it.
Okay.
There's a feature on Google Docs where you can assign like reviewers and request approval and stuff. And I wonder if you could just like assign a few people and that will also get them motivated to approve. Like I've read over it and it seems fine to me, but like I don't know. I feel like wasn't requested to like say like, yeah, this looks good to me.
Well, if you think about it, it's an open source project, so everyone should be able to, approve, disapprove. Don't know.
Yeah, I guess to me, it was like the approver section was like blank. Like I wasn't sure if you wanted someone in specific to be like, this looks good or what. But otherwise, also like the status was just in draft, so I wasn't like sure if it was finalized or whatnot.
Yeah, this status is a bit unfortunate because at some point we started using that board and the status felt a little bit redundant, but we didn't remove it. We should have probably put it in the correct status or just remove the field altogether.
We also have a status field on the document itself.
Yeah, that was the one I was, like if, I think if you
let's
just
make
like
it under review.
Yeah.
Come on. How do you bolt stuff here?
Command B. Doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work.
Doesn't.
Whatever.
Yeah. Well, I think just generally, even just on Slack, be like, we'd like to see this approved by the end of the week, and then that will be the call to action to get people to do it.
Okay, let's do this beginning of next week because we're going to give it another week anyway. And yeah, unfortunately, we didn't hear from the services working group, but I don't know. Maybe they didn't have time. Who knows?
Next thing is sort of related to that feedback. So we got feedback on the channel that some commands that we tested and implemented don't work, and it turned out that they don't work because of new version of the CFCLI. We've been using a bit old version of the CLI from September last year. Apparently something changed on the CFCLI. They're calling some APIs with additional parameters or whatever. So I was wondering, could it be that there are actually also changes to the CF API spec? Therefore, this reminder that we occasionally get from the Slackbot in Kurifi dev channel. I personally have never taken care about this issue concretely. So I think that in the past we discussed that someone has to sit down and compare the specification document between releases before bumping that number in the code. Isn't there a less ugly way of doing things?
I think part of the problem, at least, is that even for the version that we claim to support, which is 3.117, we don't actually support all of the parameters that all of the endpoints can accept. We've been selective about the endpoints that we've implemented. And so we either need to be stricter about saying, okay, if we say we support 3.117, then we have to make sure that we support absolutely every parameter that version supports. Or because I don't think the CLI is necessarily always doing a version check before making a request. I think although I do remember seeing something in there that does a version check, but I think it just says, okay, well, I'm going to try and use these parameters and see what happens, kind of thing. So the other option is just to say, okay, when we find something that doesn't work, we implement the parameters that the CLI is using. And if they change that, then we have to add in support for new parameters. And we issue a statement that says up until this version of Krifi only supports up to this version of the CLI.
Mm-hmm. The problem is that we don't have an exhaustive suite that exercises CFCLI commands.
Right.
We test the API. We have some CFCLI smoke tests, but this is absolutely not everything.
Right.
Does that mean that we have another end-to-end, our end-to-end suite, the CFCLI, that we probably have to take care of?
I think in an ideal world, this is where we would start to run some of the cat suites again, because that is the exhaustive CLI test suite for Cloud Foundry.
Yeah.
So the problem there is going to be, I don't know how much of that we can actually support.
Actually, our SAP colleagues have started running CATS test against our version of Kurifi. And they're currently running CAPS tests, which means that this is basically open source Kurifi because we haven't done much for apps in our fork. And I think it was 27% of the app suite is green, I think. Something like that, if I'm not wrong with the number.
Okay.
Not bad, but not ideal.
Yeah, it might be worth, I mean, it's not a small effort, but just going through those failures and seeing how many of those are failing because we don't support a particular query parameter for an endpoint. And
I think that most of them are such failures. Either endpoint not implemented at all or a parameter is not supported.
Right.
I think our colleagues are going through some analysis of those results, and if I'm not mistaken, maybe they're even open issues about this. I'm not sure though, maybe we track these internally, but some of them might make sense to be tracked externally as well, potentially, I don't know.
Mhm.
I think
Well,
it's
actually, I think that we should make them issues in open source Kurifi because they have to be fixed there,
yeah.
all of them.
I think is it in open source Kurifi we don't exactly have an epic about covering the app section of the cuts or anything like that.
Mm.
Doesn't it's not bad to pile up things that are missing in a way, and then we can pull these and assign them to milestones whenever they make sense. I don't know.
They might make good first issues for folks to get their feet wet working on Griffey as well.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah, maybe we should translate them to open source Kurifi issues.
I think it would be, for me, I think it would be extremely valuable to be able to just at least see the list and know what we're dealing with.
Mm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe we can just ask our colleagues for the report. The report is huge, by the way,
Oh,
thousands
I
of
can
lines
imagine.
of
Yeah.
output.
Yes, there are a
One
lot
of
of
our
cats and
colleague
dogs.
implemented a tool that analyzes the report to see, to collect the issues, to aggregate them in a readable manner, and then check whether they have been already reported with our internal tracker. Yeah, maybe we could ask for a summary
Mhm.
and maybe share it with you.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. We can
Mm.
think about something to make a dent in it.
But regarding bumping this version, if the CFCLI is not making any checks, do we actually need to have this reminder at all?
It does. It checks at before it doesn't make intelligent checks, but the CLI has a minimum version, and they support like the previous years, maybe 2 years worth of cloud controller versions as part of their like guarantee. So like even if there's nothing broken, like if that version gets too old, then the CLI will start emitting a warning, and like I think eventually it will stop like
Mm.
letting you do stuff without an override. So that's why we have it there. Like I think the instructions about going through every change between now and then is probably not super important, but like I think we do have to bump the version every now and then. Otherwise the CLI will just break, even though it should work. I'll find where
So,
it makes that check.
so you say that we can basically smoke test whether it sort of works and
Yeah.
safely bump the version to whatever latest we have right now.
Yeah, like if I remember correctly, the CLI will only actually checks it during its operation when it's like a brand new endpoint, like when they switch to using deployments instead of like the restart one. But other than that, it just like checks out it's higher than some super old minimum level at the beginning.
Mm.
I think the only challenge with that is that we're going to run into issues like this where someone tries a command and with a newer version, and all of a sudden the CLI has changed the request being made to the API, and all of a sudden we hit something that we don't support. But I don't know that, the alternative of trying to be strict about if we say we support this version, we have to support absolutely everything, I think is just too Herculean of an effort to really be realistic. So
Yeah.
Here, I'll drop this in the doc. It's like it's just like this, like there's this rudimentary minimum version check thing at the beginning that every action invokes. But yeah. And also I feel like um a new endpoint versus like parameters for an endpoint, like the end impact is they're both broken. Like, so like, I feel like we'd have to fix it regardless.
Mhm.
So like, I don't think, like Dave said, it's realistic to support literally everything, but like just bumping the version to something seems reasonable.
All right.
Yeah, and it sounds like if we just bump the CLI, run a smoke test, validate that it works. If it doesn't work, then we can call out those issues and potentially work through them. I would imagine. Okay.
Cool. So yeah, tomorrow we would probably spend some time to update our managed service prototype to actually work with latest CFCOI, because people are quite probably to use latest CFCOI, and it would be quite lame if it just doesn't work because of obvious issues.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Anything else we can talk through? Nothing else on the agenda. Going once, going twice. All right. We'll catch you all next time. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.